Beneath the expansive sky of American history, few family narratives weave as sumptuous a thread as that of the Vanderbilt family. With flourishes of opulence and panache, this old money dynasty not only carved their name into the very soul of America's economic saga, but also embroidered an iconic legacy upon the nation's architectural canvas. Indeed, perhaps no other family lineage from the Gilded Age has etched such a distinct and enduring mark into the history of grand mansions in the United States. Yet even the mightiest of trees can be hewn from their roots. And in the 20th century, an ironic twist of fate saw the Vanderbilts quite literally evicted from one of their most magnificent creations. Their ancestral abode, the Breakers, an estate grand enough to mirror the family's colossal repute, fell to the hands of a local preservation society. In today's episode of Old Money Mansions, we'll share this shocking tale of rags to riches to rags, from reveling in sumptuous summer retreats to being served a vicious notice to vacate, as we describe how the Vanderbilt family got evicted from their own mansion. In the mid-1800s, Cornelius Vanderbilt, better known to the creme de la creme and the murmurs of New York's alleyways as the Commodore, deftly transformed a razor-sharp business edge into the underpinnings of a transportation behemoth. Following a sterling tenure with Thomas Gibbon's steamship enterprise, Vanderbilt caused quite the splash, undercutting rivals with fares so low they practically begged him to take their bribes and sail his entrepreneurial spirit into calmer waters. But his dominion over the maritime market, it seems, was but a prelude. As the 1860s commenced, the Commodore shifted gears to the clanking tracks of the railroads. With the cunning of a chess grandmaster, he enveloped the Hudson River Railroad, and in a relentless pursuit, clasped the New York Central Railroad into his fold. Not to be stalled, the Lake Shore and Michigan Southern Railway soon followed. These maneuvers were not just business transactions, they were bold strokes reshaping the nation's contours. So by his final bow, the Vanderbilt family's wealth was almost unrivaled, with the Commodore's moniker etched into the very spine of railroad nobility. Yet, to paint the Vanderbilt legacy as merely a tale of commercial victories would be to ignore its immense importance in the history of American architecture. Take the Biltmore Estate, for instance, conceived by George Washington Vanderbilt II and perched amongst the green embrace of North Carolina's Asheville Mountains. This Gilded Age masterpiece, with its Indiana limestone embracing a sprawling 365 feet, is the very embodiment of Vanderbilt extravagance. But the architectural exploits of this illustrious family didn't peak with the Biltmore. There was also, of course, the Breakers Mansion in Newport, Rhode Island, the immaculate stone subject of today's intrigue. A Vanderbilt beacon of grandeur, the Breakers was erected as a summer escape for Cornelius Vanderbilt II, dreamed up by the renowned architect Richard Morris Hunt, and its construction spanned from 1893 to 1895. Inspired by European palatial elegance, the Breakers was a bold declaration of the Vanderbilts' regal aspirations on American soil. Clad in brick and Indiana limestone, the Breakers Mansion stands as a tribute to the American Renaissance revival, echoing a Roman palazzo and epitomizing Gilded Age splendor. Its great hall, a cavernous expanse of 50 feet in all directions, is a shrine to the excesses and ambitions that marked the time. And when the Breakers rose from the ashes of a predecessor claimed by fire in 1892, it wasn't just a building that took shape, but a monument to the incredible wealth and reach of the Vanderbilts. Yet, with the arrival of the Roaring Twenties, the whispers of change grew even louder than the chatter in local speakeasies. The Vanderbilt wealth, once perceived as bottomless, ebbed, segmented among heirs with a fondness for the fanciful. As the Great Depression loomed, the family's grip on railroads loosened, and the family found themselves navigating a world not to the rhythm of steam engines, but to the buzz of a new era's tune. As the 1940s rolled into the 1950s, the United States bore witness to the dawn of architectural preservation movements, a collective tipping of the hat to the nation's historic grandeur. Specifically, this newfound reverence had its prologue in the 19th century, when the homes of the nation's political architects, John Hancock and George Washington, teetered on the brink of oblivion. Subsequently, this kindled a spirited national dialogue weighing the virtues of historical sanctity against the siren call of economic progress that often beckoned towards destruction. Into this fray stepped entities like the Preservation Society of Newport County, Rhode Island, an ensemble cast with a mission to champion the cause of conservation over capitulation. Anchored in 1945 by the civic-minded Catherine and George Warren, the society initially donned the mantle of the Georgian Society, vowing to shield the venerable Hunter House, a Georgian colonial gem perched by the harbour, from the relentless march of development. It was against this backdrop that the Breakers Mansion, that paragon of Gilded Age opulence at 44 Ochre Point Avenue, encountered its own existential crossroads. Constructed as a summer haven for Cornelius Vanderbilt II, by 1945 this palatial abode had ripened from a private family sanctum into a public con, capturing the nation's fascination, and the plot thickened when Gladys, Cornelius II's youngest daughter and the estate's custodian post-1934, cast her lot with the Preservation Society. With an eye for history's worth and a heart for civic duty, she flung open the Breakers' doors in 1948, not merely to parade its splendor, but to bolster the Society's coffers and creed. Thus, a private mansion's transformation into a historic public shrine was set in motion. This changing of the guard was inked in a lease that was, in essence, a gentleman's agreement, a token $1 per year, allowing the Society to shepherd the Breakers' legacy into the public eye, while Gladys maintained her private apartment aloft on the 3rd floor. Indeed, it was a dance of private grace with public gaze, and the Breakers blossomed into a pilgrimage site for those lured by the siren song of Gilded Age grandiosity. However, the partnership between the Preservation Society and the Vanderbilt heirs, once formed in the spirit of safeguarding a shared legacy, would soon begin to show signs of strain beneath the surface of apparent harmony. As tension simmered, the proud Vanderbilt descendants would next face off against the Society's unwavering commitment to conservation, as the grandeur of the Breakers stood silently, awaiting the outcome of a historic clash that promised to redefine the mansion's destiny. The year 1972 flipped open a crucial chapter in the saga of the Breakers Mansion when the Preservation Society of Newport County struck a deal like no other. You see, the next generation of Vanderbilt heirs passed the mansion's torch to the Society for $366,000, equal to roughly $2.4 million in today's currency, an almost criminally affordable sum, we must say. Yet, this exchange of deeds was not just a swap of greenbacks, it was laced with the understanding that the Vanderbilt aura would linger within the Breakers' walls. Countess Sapari, Sichenyi's heir, retained her residence post-sale, and upon her exit, Gladys and Paul Sapari, her children, then continued to grace the mansion's 3rd floor, their presence a legacy inhabitant within the gilded cage. But the Vanderbilt descendants eyed this pact with a medley of respect and skepticism. While the Society's preservationist zeal was commendable, disputes emerged. Tensions simmered over the significance of family heirlooms adorning the mansion's halls, and whispers of commercialism encroaching upon historical fidelity echoed. The Society's staff, accused of undervaluing Vanderbilt artifacts, found themselves in the thick of a genteel tug-of-war. Additionally, as the opulent 1980s came in, they cast a shadow over the Vanderbilt fortune, once a monolith of American wealth, now a dwindling empire facing a pecuniary storm. The Breakers stood as a beautiful, if ominous, symbol of this shift, its upkeep a lodestone for the Preservation Society, as the Vanderbilt heirs navigated financial problems and increasingly leaned on the Society's largesse. At the top of 1998, a gentle tranquility appeared to be lovingly draped over the historic Breakers Mansion, much like the serene sea caressing its shore. The mansion stood majestic, a silent witness to the then symbiotic connection that thrived within its walls, a relationship between the Preservation Society and the living vestiges of the mansion's creators, Paul and Gladys Sapari, great-grandchildren of the legendary Cornelius Vanderbilt II. That same year, the board president of the Preservation Society had even written words of mutual benefit and historical continuity, remarking, "It will be helpful to us to be able to tell our visitors that the original owner's great-grandchildren continue to live in the house." And Paul and Gladys, in their gracious commitment, had not only served on the board of trustees, but had also given their time and efforts like precious offerings, contributing to the mansion's thriving legacy. Yet beneath this facade of harmonious existence, a looming shadow crept stealthily, precipitated by the death of their mother, Countess Antony Sapari, soon thereafter. A turning point was quickly at hand, and though the upper stories of the breakers continued to cradle the last Vanderbilt descendants, the tides of their rapport with the Preservation Society began to shift. The Sapari children quickly found themselves grappling with a sense of diminishing acknowledgement, their contributions and their profound connection to the mansion seemingly slighted. In fact, their discomfort was met with a veiled warning from the board president, chilling in its brevity. Their occupancy was as fragile as a house of cards, and ready to topple at the whisper of a moment's notice. And then, the year 2018 emerged as a watershed in the narrative of the breakers and the Vanderbilt lineage. The mansion stood at the vortex of a vehement debate, a proposed visitor center poised to punctuate its grounds. The Vanderbilt descendants stood in stout opposition, their dissent rooted in a deep-seated desire to preserve the sanctity of the landmark's historic architectural and horticultural style. Yet the Rhode Island Supreme Court, in its ruling, chose not to halt the Society's aspirations to build the modern visitor center, a decision that resonated with the heavy finality of a gavel, stripping the Vanderbilt family of their lingering influence over the estate. By the 7th of August, 2018, the atmosphere within the breakers had taken on the weight of a historic dirge. The Vanderbilt descendants, Paul and Gladys Sapari, were served an eviction from their own ancestral home, a decision wrapped in the guise of necessity due to the antiquated and perilous state of the building's interiors. Despite this ostensibly mutual resolution, whispers of the Society's vindictive undercurrents circulated, as if the eviction was a veiled retribution for the siblings' defiance against the visitor center. Undoubtedly, this chapter in the Vanderbilt saga was as poignant as it was public, the media's lenses magnifying every contour of this dramatic unfolding. The breakers' mansion, once a glittering jewel in the crown of American wealth, now witnessed the last of the Vanderbilts stripped from their generational hearth. Thus concluded an era, an elegiac adieu not merely to the presence of a family within walls of grandeur, but to the very essence of their living legacy. By 2019, the breakers' mansion had gracefully transitioned to a new epoch in its storied existence. No longer the secluded domain of the Vanderbilt lineage, its ornate gates had swung open to the public realm, transformed into a vibrant museum, an edifice of learning and preservation, echoing the echoes of the Gilded Age lifestyle. The metamorphosis of the breakers into a beacon of cultural heritage marked a profound shift in its essence. The grandiose rooms and halls, which once resonated with the whispers of private lives, now bustled with millions of footsteps walked by the curious and the awe-inspired. Visitors wandered through the opulent spaces, their senses bathed in the grandeur that once was the privilege of the elite amidst a time of great industrial strides and gaping societal divides. Audio tours would narrate tales of economic fervor, social stratifications, and political undercurrents that defined the era, while the Preservation Society's scholarly series, The Gilded Age Years Transforming America, dived deeper into the transformative period that shaped modern America. Moreover, the Breakers Museum journey became a vital sentinel for Gilded Age architecture, preserving its intricate beauty for the admiration and study of future generations. Peering into the horizon, the Breakers now navigates the dichotomy of preserving a glittering past, while engaging a new generation in the historical dialogue. Yet, amidst the mansion's renaissance, a disquieting note of discord has been struck. The legal entanglements between the Vanderbilt family and the Preservation Society, a sad waltz of contention, have left a blemish upon the breakers' dignified facade. This strife, filled with legal battles and public dismay, has cast a shadow over the mansion's illustrious image, introducing a narrative of contemporary conflict to an otherwise harmonious historical recollection. As the breakers stands today, it is more than just a mansion. It is a monument that pulsates with life. Its journey, a storied voyage through family legacies, societal evolution, and now legal complexities, continues to captivate and educate in a perpetual dance of historical elegance and modern reality. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments. Have you ever been to the Breakers Mansion, or have visiting it on your bucket list? We love hearing personal tales from our community about their visits to the world's most iconic structures. We look forward to hearing from you. And thanks again for joining us for another episode of Old Money Mansions. Cheers, until next time.